What was the first time the Walt Disney Company took one of its theme park attractions and made it into a movie, a motion picture? Obviously, the time that they did it and that it hit gold, that it hit the jackpot, was Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl in 2003. But that was hardly their first try. The year before, they'd had The Country Bears. 2 years before that, they had Brian De Palma's movie Mission to Mars, which was loosely based on a defunct Tomorrowland attraction. But the very first time that Disney took a theme park attraction and adapted it into a movie was 1997, and it was the made-for-TV movie Tower of Terror, starring Steve Guttenberg and Kirsten Dunst. Now, I had heard of this movie vaguely, but I'd never given it a second thought until last week when I was doing research for the latest episode of our podcast, my movie podcast, Load Bearing Beams. Each week we do a historical deep dive on a different movie before we do a in-depth review of the movie itself. And the episode that we did was Jungle Cruise, the 2021 movie starring Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt. And it is, of course, based on a Disney theme park ride. So I investigated this whole idea of Disney making movies out of rides. Where did this idea come from? Where did it start? This was the first one. Now, this movie, Tower of Terror, it originally aired on October 26, 1997 as part of Disney's Wonderful World of Disney Sunday night program on ABC. And if you want to argue that this isn't actually a movie, it's a TV movie, basically an episode of television, I'm not going to argue with you. It's fine. But I do want to talk about this Tower of Terror thing, which I have now watched. And I've tried to learn as much about it as I possibly could, although there's not a lot of information out there available about this movie. But I was looking at the names of some of the other made-for-TV movies that Disney did that had aired during this time, and I was surprised by how many of them were familiar. Like, there's this movie called Wish Upon a Star that stars Danielle Harris from Halloween 4 and 5 and a very young Katherine Heigl, and the two of them play sisters, teenage sisters, and they do a body swap. For some reason, I watched that movie every time it came on TV when I was a kid, even though I remember explicitly not liking it. It was the 1990s. You had no control over what you could watch. Your entertainment options were limited, so you took what they gave you. But Tower of Terror, let's start with the ride. Well, actually, first, the Disney Company, they never say the word ride. It's one of those things that once you learn about it, you can never stop noticing it. They don't say ride. They say themed attractions and or experiences. So this themed attraction / experience, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, it originally opened at Disney-MGM Studios in 1994. And that park in Orlando, Florida, MGM Studios, which is today called Hollywood Studios, it had itself opened 5 years earlier, and it was rushed into development. It was part of this Civil War or Cold War between Disney and Universal, because Universal was opening a theme park in Orlando that would be centered on movie production and a real working movie studio. And so Disney rushed the development of their own theme park, their own third theme park in Orlando, MGM Studios. If you're interested in that story, or if you're interested in theme park history, there's a great book called Universal versus Disney by Sam Genoway, which tells the whole story of this era. But for the first 5 years of its existence, MGM Studios was missing a major e-ticket attraction, like the kind of real thrill ride that can really anchor a park. So Tower of Terror was designed to fill that void. The ride would be themed to the intellectual property of the Twilight Zone, which Disney did not own. It had to license from CBS. This was a time before Disney literally owned everything. Now, Disney, I talk about Disney a lot. I never want you to forget that, like all big companies, they are the enemy. They are pure and utter evil. They're a blight upon our society. They're our enemy. Don't forget that. But they used to be so much better at what they did. Like, can you imagine Disney today building a theme park ride around something so old and unhip as the Twilight Zone? Like, that idea would die before it ever got to the focus group stage. But I digress. The story of the ride is that the Hollywood Tower Hotel in 1939, on a dark and stormy night, 5 hotel guests got on an elevator and they disappeared forever. And every single element of this theme park ride is great. It's maybe my single favorite theme park ride. The movie version has no connection to the Twilight Zone, but other than that, I think this might be the theme park movie that has the most connections to its theme park ride. Like it takes the theme park ride very much as a starting point, has so many storyline connections to its source material. It starts with the 5 people who disappear in the elevator on a stormy night in 1939, and it's the same 5 people, the same 5 hotel guests from the ride. The movie does a pretty good job of making them look like the actors from the pre-show video that you will see in the ride, even though it was filmed much later. The movie also filmed Steve Guttenberg walking around the grounds of the Disney theme park attraction, but the vast majority of the movie was filmed on a Los Angeles soundstage. So this movie, Tower of Terror, it was written and directed by DJ MacHale. This man, this DJ, very much the auteur of this project, and I say that because this movie very much plays like an episode of DJ MacHale's TV show, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Are You Afraid of the Dark, if you don't know, was a Canadian-produced Nickelodeon anthology horror show for kids that originally aired from 1992 to 1996. To people my age, this is a totemic work. We worship at the altar of Are You Afraid of the Dark? I watched every episode of the show when I was a kid. DJ MacHale was the co-creator and the primary showrunner of that series. He also directed a lot of episodes, and the Tower of Terror movie has many of the visual hallmarks that he established on that show. A lot of like very busy handheld camera work, a lot of Dutch angles just to show you like things are not always as they appear. Things are starting to get a little strange, but the general tone just feels like an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? The story beats even follow the story beats of an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like a character will get introduced to a new situation. They're told it's very scary. The character's like, I don't think it's all that scary. I am skeptical. But then they get won over. Oh no, this is very scary, isn't it? And then it'll be revealed a person who they thought was their enemy turns out to be a friend and is trying to help them. There's usually a ghost or something, a ghost who just needs help resolving their business. The show had like a slightly campy tone. The adult actors in it are all kind of acting like they're in a sketch or like they're in a, like a community theater. But the whole thing works because it's a 22-minute episode of television. And a 90-minute movie, though, that's a little different story. That can be a little rough. This isn't a terrible movie. I bet younger kids might even enjoy it. But this movie ultimately just doesn't work because it is very, very hard to port that tone and that storytelling style over into a 90-minute movie, and for it to feel like it has any real stakes, any real scares, or even any real laughs. But here's what happens in this movie. So Steve Guttenberg is the lead of this movie. In nearly every shot of this movie, he plays a reporter named Buzzy. And Buzzy's career was destroyed in scandal. And now he works for scuzzy tabloids. But he's not like doing celebrity sex tapes or anything. He's like photographing Bigfoot and aliens, but he really wants to get back into the mainstream media. And he thinks if he can just break one big important story, that'll do it. That'll be his ticket back to the big times. And so he thinks he finally gets his break when a mysterious old woman named Abigail shows up at his apartment and tells him about the Hollywood Tower Hotel. And there was a lot of unpleasantness with that Hollywood Tower Hotel back in 1939. And this woman, Abigail, she's been obsessed with it ever since. So the movie will do a lot of flopping between 1997, the present, and 1939. I will say right away, I think it's a mistake for this movie to be set in the present. The movie should be set in 1939. Like people love the theme park attraction and have no problem with it being a period piece. Make this movie a period piece, but it's fine, whatever. In 1939, we see the 5 hotel guests who disappear on the elevator. We have Miss Carolyn Crossan, played by Melora Hardin. She is a Jan from The Office. We have a snooty, well-dressed rich gentleman named Mr. Gilbert London. We have a bellhop named Dewey Todd. Every time we see Dewey, this actor is just doing the most business possible for the camera to notice him. We have a very stern-looking woman named Miss Partridge. She is the governess of Sally Shine, a little 8-year-old like Shirley Temple-esque movie star. And again, these are the same 5 people from the ride. I don't remember if on the ride they have these names, but they took the pre-show video from the ride and took it very seriously. Okay, Abigail, the old woman who is helping Steve Guttenberg, she says that when she was a little girl, she was there at the hotel that night. She was present. She saw the whole thing. She saw the stern governess, Miss Partridge, casting evil black magic on Sally Shine, cursed all 5 of these people to spend an eternity suspended in some sort of like empty temporal membrane layer of the cosmos. We see shots of like big books of the dead and Miss Partridge reciting evil incantations. And so, yeah, Miss Partridge, she's the culprit. She's the bad one. I'm sure this will still be true at the end of the movie. So Buzzy decides to go check out this hotel, and we get actual shots of Steve Guttenberg walking around the real Tower of Terror, the actual exterior of the ride from the theme park. There's also a lot of establishing shots of the tower, but then there's weird things like they obviously recreated the gate for their Los Angeles shoot, so it'll be like a tight shot of the actors standing in front of the gate. And you would expect, like in a real movie, it would then pan up to show the tower, but it never does that because this is not in the same location as the tower. It's all a little weird and incongruous, especially if you know the ride. It will just feel weird that a movie is taking place at this ride, but it's all, I don't know, it's kind of charming. At the hotel, he meets a man named Q. Now, Q is the keeper of this mysterious hotel where children disappear. He keeps deep secrets about the disappearing children. And again, his name is Q. Don't worry about any of that. Q is played by Michael McShane, who you might remember as the drunk Friar Tuck from Kevin Costner's Robin Hood, or as Professor Keenbean from the Macaulay Culkin Richie Rich movie. But Q, he is heir to this hotel. But the stipulations of this will say that this hotel stays forever suspended in probate until the mystery of the hotel guests who disappeared, until that mystery is solved. So can't inherit this hotel, Q, until we solve the mystery. But he doesn't want to go inside the hotel. He finds it too scary. So he just repairs stuff outside of the hotel. Okay, so Steve Guttenberg, Buzzy, he gets to the hotel, and a lot of this movie is on Steve Guttenberg's shoulders, and he's just a bad fit for this material. Like, he can't play properly skeptical or scared or silly, and I'm sure to him, he thought, like, you know, eight years earlier, he was in 3 Men and a Baby. He was one of the stars of that movie, the biggest movie of the year. And eight years later, he's acting in a Disney theme park ride. So yeah, he probably felt humiliated. And you feel in his performance that he feels like he's above all of this. In contrast to the other actors, including Kirsten Dunst, who all understand the assignment much better. But Buzzy is just wandering around this hotel, and he is hearing mysterious, ghostly voices talking to him. He sees objects moving around without cause. Basically instantly gets visual and audio confirmation. The supernatural is real. It is here. You are in the presence of ghosts and apparitions. And he finds the Book of the Dead. He finds the Necronomicon, and it cuts ahead to him. He's no longer at the hotel. He's at his sister's house, and he's reading from the Necronomicon, and he's just like, give me a break. But the niece, the Kirsten Dunst, she finally gets involved. She wants to help him with the case. It feels, why is this an uncle and niece sort of thing? I guess it would be too sad if Guttenberg were like a loser divorced dad who, this is his court appointed time with his daughter, his teenage daughter, and he drags her along on these weird assignments. Instead, she is the niece who really likes her uncle. She's the teenage Kirsten Dunst who thinks spending time with her dud uncle is like a great way to spend your time. And she really wants to help him with this hotel mystery. So yeah, she's going to be key to solving the mystery. So Buzzy, he's like, oh, I'm on the verge of breaking a real scoop here. So he goes to the newspaper where he used to work, and he starts harassing the editor, Jill. She's played by Nia Peeples. She and Buzzy used to date, and she is just sick of his shit. And he's like, oh yeah, I know you're sick of my shit, but I got the story of a lifetime. It's about these ghosts and elevator and the ghosts that disappear. If I can just get like a real swell photograph of the ghosts, I think we got a real story here. What do you think? And she's like, no, I think that sucks. I think you should leave. And he's like, oh crap. And he leaves, very sad. But then we stay with Jill, the editor, and she's like, Hollywood Tower Hotel, eh? And she's going to go off doing some sleuthing of her own that we will follow. But we go back to the hotel, and there's a character played by Melora Hardin, a character who is also played by Melora Hardin. She's playing two roles. She shows up and she starts talking in this like tough dame accent. She's like, I'm a lucky girl meeting you here, Buzzy. Oh, you should come up and see me sometime. So something is up with this lady. Buzzy and his niece go looking through the hotel. And again, instantly just hear ghostly warnings. Ooh, the ghost of the hotel. And Buzzy and his niece, they split up. She's like going off on her own. She hears ghosts singing like, it's raining, it's pouring. And her reaction is just to like chuckle and go like, hey, cool. So I just watched the 3rd episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, which is called The Tale of the Lonely Ghost. I did that because it was directed by DJ MacHale. I just wanted to remind myself of Are You Afraid of the Dark, having not seen it in 25 years. And in that episode, there's also sequences of a teenage girl wandering around a haunted, empty house in the middle of the day, and ghosts make their presence known to her. They're like, ring around the rosy. And the girl in that episode's reaction is like, huh, that's pretty cool, I guess. Just kind of weird both to see both things happen back to back. Also, that these things happen during the day. I mean, the show is called Are You Afraid of the Dark? Shouldn't this all take place at night? Wouldn't that be scary? Anyway, our heroes are in the hotel, and like a champagne bottle goes off all on its own, and Steve Guttenberg is still playing skeptical, and he's like, is this somebody's idea of a joke or something? It's very frustrating, and the ghosts seem to get frustrated because at this point they just come out. They're like, we are ghosts and we are here. Hello, we are ghosts. Deal with us now. And the ghosts start talking to them, Melora Hardin included, and she's like, surprise, I'm a ghost. That's why I talk like this, because I'm from the 30s. And Steve Guttenberg's like, I get it. But they say they don't know why they're stuck in this hotel forever. They think it was they're kind of turning on each other. They're like, it was the bellhop that cursed us. He's the reason we're here. And the bellhop's like, no, I didn't do that. And Kirsten Dunst is like, is Miss Partridge, that evil Miss Partridge, is you bitter old crone, you wicked bitty bitch. You cursed Shally Shine to this hell. But they all look at her in horror, and then Miss Partridge is like, no, I love the girl like she's my own. And Shally Shine just beams up at her, and she's like, you're the greatest, Miss Partridge. And so they're like, but if it wasn't Miss Partridge and it wasn't the bellhop, then who was it? And it cuts away to Abigail, that old lady from who instigated all of this. And she's just standing outside the hotel, and she's laughing evilly. Meanwhile, Jill, the newspaper editor, she's going to pay Abigail a visit. She doesn't know Abigail's not she is going to the sanitarium where Abigail has lived ever since 1939, but Abigail's not there. So the caretaker of the sanitarium explains to newspaper editor Jill, Abigail is actually the older sister of Sally Shine, of the Shirley Temple movie star character. She's been here since 1939, ever since her sister disappeared from this mortal realm. It really upset her when her sister disappeared. So Jill is like, oh, okay, that's weird. So she goes into Abigail's room, starts shuffling through her things, finds a trunk with a hidden compartment in which there's just a lot of newspaper articles and like publicity stills of her sister. And Abigail has scrawled on them words like pain and bad. And so it was Abigail all along. We are back at the hotel. The heroes are talking to the spirits, and they agree they're going to help them by fixing the elevator. If they can fix the elevator, then the ghosts can take the elevator all the way up to the 12th floor, where there was a party that they were supposed to go to in 1939. Because they never made it to the party, they never were able to finish their business. That's why they're damned forever. You get it. They bring in Michael McShane. Even though he's scared of the hotel, they're like, yeah, but if you fix the elevator, then the mystery gets solved, and then the will and the succession and the weird thing, you'll come to own the hotel. You'll basically be like a minor baron here in Los Angeles County. And he's like, oh, okay, sounds good. So they're working on fixing the elevator and lifting the curse, but then Nia Peeples, the editor, she shows up and she's like, hey, you know that Abigail lady? Actually, she is Sally Shine's sister, and she's big time jealous. And Sally Shine, she's like more famous now than she ever was, because she's like the stuff of legend, that child actress who just, she's basically like the Lindbergh baby. And Buzzy's like, oh gosh, how could I have missed this? And it's like, it's because you're a terrible reporter, Buzzy. But Nia Peeples, she's like, no, Buzzy, it doesn't matter. You're on the brink of the story of a lifetime. You're back, baby. So how about we go back to the newspaper right now and print it? We can still make the midnight deadline or whatever. Even though she's done all the actual reporting. But she's like, okay, you have to make a choice now, Buzzy. Are you going to choose between helping all these ghosts and winning the affection of your niece? Or are you going to go do something for your career? And so Guttenberg is like mulling this over, like, oh, what should I do? And Kirsten Dunst, who's way too good for this movie and does in this scene is like acting way too real for this movie. She's like, you lied to me, Uncle Buzzy. You're a fraud, you're a charlatan, I hate you, I never want to talk to you. And he's just like, oh, sorry, okay, never mind, okay, I'll stay. So they get the elevator working, but all the while we see Abigail. She is off reading spells from the Necronomicon, and she like says something about like, tonight I complete my revenge. I'm not sure exactly what she's trying to do. It's going to make things bad for the people that we like in this movie for some reason. And then the elevator gets working, and then friggin' Kirsten Dunst accidentally ends up in the elevator instead of Shirley Temple. And so they're like, oh God, no, we got to stop it or something. So if they go now to the top floor, they're going to the 12th floor. Okay, this script is a mess. So Abigail, she was like, you see, back in 1939, I never meant to make these people disappear. I meant to murder them. I meant to make the elevator crash, just like the theme park ride. So she's going to do it again, and she sets in motion the spell to make the elevator crash. She's going to kill Kirsten Dunst. So they got to get Kirsten Dunst out of the elevator, and they're like, why would you do this, Abigail? Why? And she's like, because I was jealous of my sister. Also, it was my birthday that night, and no one cared about me. And then her sister comes out, and she's like, but Abigail, we were going to the 12th floor because it was your birthday party, your surprise birthday party, and I wanted to give you this, a friendship bracelet with our initials on it. And then Abigail's like, oh my God, I do love you. You do love me. And she starts weeping. And then Abigail's like, okay, sorry about the curse thing. Like, okay, let's stop those elevators. They do. And they go up to the 12th floor to the party where it's still 1939. They're going to this party in 1939. This raises the question, should they warn the other party guests about the Pearl Harbor attack that's coming up in 2 years? If they do that, the movie doesn't show it. Melora Hardin, there's been this thing where her whole life she's wanted to be a singer on stage. Here at this party in the swanky hotel ballroom at this surprise birthday party for a small child, she's going to make her singing debut. And she starts singing for about 30 seconds and is just in the throes of ecstasy. Finally, I'm a singing star, and her spirit disappears because she's finally been able to accomplish her thing that she was on Earth to do. The Abigail and Sally, now that they have rekindled their love, their spirits disappear. So, the ghosts, they're accomplishing their goals, and now they're able to move on. This whole thing with ghosts in movies have unfinished business. It's always stuff like, I need to give my sister a friendship bracelet, or I need to sing on stage. It's never, I have unfinished business. I never got to live for 60 years. I never got to live with my family and be happy and fulfilled and have lots of friends. I can't go on until I do that. But anyway, that's the Tower of Terror movie. Is this movie good? No, it's not good. Should you see it? No, you should not see it. The problem is it's not bad enough to be fun. It's too competently made. But I guess if you did watch Are You Afraid of the Dark, it's kind of fun to imagine it as a version of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Somebody should do that on the internet. Edit this down into a 22-minute version of Are You Afraid of the Dark? This movie isn't available commercially. You can't watch it on Disney Plus or anything, but it is on YouTube. So just go grab the YouTube video and make some magic happen. But if you have no nostalgia for this movie, if you never watched it as a kid, you don't need to bother. But if you did watch it as a kid, let me know. I want to know. What do you remember about this movie? Did you like it? What did you like about it? And check out Load Bearing Beams. Check out the Jungle Cruise episode that we did, which is a lot of fun. And you can learn about another movie based on a themed attraction and experience.